Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. We are honored to have you as a guest tonight and want to thank each of you for your faithful support. Without further delay, allow me to introduce to you Mr. Baron Glass. Mr. Glass, take it away.
Good afternoon. I think we kind of fooled y'all tonight. You thought we was going to go 1, 2, 3, but what we're going to do is get right off into it. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. Tonight, we're going to talk about a very good subject, in my opinion. Tonight, we're going to talk about with Hillary Clinton. Sadly, as the front runner, we need to address her many scandals and how valid, real they are. We're going to be joined by the guy who was responsible for this actual topic, Mr. Dave Lamont, Mr. Aaron Hopkins, who will be joining us shortly. We'll also be joined by Ms. Nikki Bedwick, and I believe Deb is going to call in, and I believe Paula is going to call in also. And I know that this is going to be a very good conversation. And what we're doing once again on this particular broadcast is pointing out issues that people need to be aware of when they go and cast their vote in November of 2016. You see, every time you turn around, it appears that something is going on negative. If you look at Barbara Boxer, the senator who is saying some things, if you look at Nancy Pelosi, if you look at Chuck Schumer, if you look at all of these other guys who, Bernie Franks, if you look at just people that really should allow the political process to take place, the more and more we get closer to June and July, the convention, it looks more like a rigged process than ever before. And we know what happens when it becomes rigged. We look back into the year of 2000, Bush v. Gore. Dave Lamont, Nikki Bedwick, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Thanks. I'm doing good too, Baron. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening.
Dave Lamont, you do a lot of research. And several of us have been talking about how balanced you are. Several of us have been talking about how consistent you try to be. And several of us have talked about how you go about providing the facts according to what it is that you're talking about. It's not that you're trying to sway one person or the other. It appears that you want each individual person to be informed about who they might cast their vote for. So, Dave, Tell us why you chose the topic with Clinton sadly as a front runner. Why should we address the many scandals and how valid and how real they are when it comes to this particular election in 2016? Dave Lamont.
Well, to start off with, the sad part is being a Bernie Sanders supporter, I have to look at the fact that Hillary Clinton is the front runner and the likely nominee for the Democratic Party. So that's the sad part. When it comes to the Hillary Clinton scandals, my goal tonight is to try and bring a little clarity, because the first thing that Republicans are going to do once it's made official, and they're already doing it to a certain degree, is they're going to bring up every scandal that the Clintons have been involved with, every one-liner, and I've got a huge list of different Clinton-type scandals, which I'll name off a few of those in the course of the show, but I'll go into a little bit more detail on a couple of the more popular and well-known ones, and tell you and the audience exactly how valid these things really are. So that's the goal of my topic tonight.
Okay, Dave, let me ask, I believe Deb is in. Deb, how are you doing? Got to give her time to get off mute. Deb, you out there? Okay, that may not be Deb yet. But look, Nikki, let me ask you this, and then we're going to get off into the heart
I'm
of...
here, Darren.
Okay, Deb, you there?
This is Paula.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to come to you, Paula. Let me get to the co-host first.
Hey, I'm just listening.
Yeah, we're still going to bring in, because we're glad that you're listening. Nikki, Dave has always been consistent with the things that he has brought before each individual audience. When we look at Hillary, I'm not sure that anybody on here has said anything other than what they have known based on media coverage and her entire 30-plus year career in politics. When you look at this topic, what does that say to you when it talks about potentially her being the nominee and sadly the general election in November? What does that say to you as a Bernie Sanders supporter? And then we're going to allow you to give a little commentary, and then we're going to go back to Dave, and we're going to get off into the conversation.
Go ahead. You know, Dave, I rely on you more than anything I read for the information, you know, for accurate, logical analysis and information. And I really just want to thank you for that. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You know, when I look at Hillary, okay, and I know there's nothing to pin, but wherever the woman goes, there's scandal. It's murky, it's questionable at best. There's nothing she seems to touch that doesn't have a hint of scandal. And it's almost like hard to adjudicate, hard to pin, but she is followed. She's been followed by scandal her whole career. And I find that her being the possible Democratic nominee for president, I think one of the things that kind of nationwide, people do not trust her. People do not trust her for a reason. She's scandal ridden, nothing proven, nothing that as I say you can pin your hat on, but everything is questionable. You know, I mean, and I can't believe a politician of her experience, of her exposure, really is a bad decision maker that way. I mean, I don't think this is an accident. And I think it's going to play incredibly badly if she is the likely nominee. I think Trump's people, I think they'll go in and I think they will crucify her.
Right. Dave Lamont, before we bring everybody else in, let's get off into, we know that Donald Trump is unorthodox. We know that he's going to go from every different angle, including throwing the kitchen sink. Because I believe he started out as a joke, but now he sees that he has the opportunity, and he's not going to miss the opportunity to become a success with regards to becoming the nominee and becoming the president, because he's the type of person that says, aha, I told you I could do it. I'm going to prove that I could do it. And when I do it, I'm going to rub it in your face. So when we look at the scandals, whether they are true or not, some I believe probably are true. When we look at those that may be true and relate those to Hillary, Dave Lamont, tell us exactly what we're going to be looking for and start directly into your thesis as to what it is about Hillary Clinton that we all should be aware of before we make the decision to pull that lever.
Well, certainly. One of the first things that we have to sit there and look at is Hillary Clinton in a unique position compared to other types of presidents and presidential candidates. And when we look back in the past, all through the Republic, we find out that scandals plague many different presidencies. Now, each presidency, there's highlighted ones, but usually if there's one scandal, there's multiple scandals. So, if we look back as far back as Ulysses S. Grant, he's got like 3 or 4 scandals within his own administration. He's got a Black Friday scandal where he was considered to be manipulating the price of gold. He had a credit fraud scandal under his administration, and he had something called the whiskey ring, which is his most well-known one. So, right there, we're talking in the 1870s. You wouldn't think that there would be that many scandals, but those are just the 3 prominent scandals in Ulysses S. Grant. We've also got cases of different types of scandals happening in John Quincy Adams. His whole election, for instance, in 1820, is considered one of the biggest scandals in American history. Mm-hmm. Andrew Jackson's marriage, for instance, in 1828 became a political issue. And when we talk about the scandal king, we have to actually look at Ronald Wilson Reagan, mm-hmm. who has had more people in his administration tried, convicted, and imprisoned than any other administration in the United States history. But you don't hear that, do you? You only hear about Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton scandal, because the Clintons had personalities. They had these personas that people liked. They were generally well regarded, and everybody liked bringing down a hero, so to speak. And I'm not saying that Bill Clinton was any kind of hero. I'm just saying that it seems like the Clintons, if there is something unique about the scandals that they are involved in, it's the fact that we seem to remember those more than we do many other presidents. There's almost never a presidency that's not ridden with a few scandals, and the worse the presidency is, the more scandals there are. Mm-hmm. So when we look at this, and if you look at it objectively, it does not seem like Hillary Clinton has any more scandals than any other kind of person who served as president of the United States. So that's the opening of that. I just wanted to get it out there. So she is not any more plague scandal than anybody else. So when we move from there, we have to start looking at individual cases and seeing what these individual cases are. And I'm going to highlight a few of them, unless you have any questions on what's gone over so far.
Yeah, just want to ask you, Dave, since we are in a different era, a different century than all of those other ones, see, because I venture to say that some of those scandals, most people didn't know anything about because they didn't have social media. They didn't have a wide range of television, cable news networks, or whatever the case may be. So if we move forward to 2016, and we look at just about, even when a person go and use the restroom, they can tell you almost how many times they've gone to use the restroom. I said that to say this. So it appears that every scandal that Hillary may even be associated with, it appears that social media puts it out there, and sometimes perception is reality. So based on that perception being reality in some cases, and in this case now, would it make it appear to be worse off now with Hillary versus those that you mentioned previously?
This is a phenomena that goes beyond presidential scandals. It affects crime statistics, disease reporting, and many other facets in life. For instance, if you ask most people if they think crime is higher now than it was in the 1970s, many people will say that it's higher now than in the 1970s. Mm-hmm. And the reason behind that is because we have a much broader sense of what's going on around us because of our 24-hour media, our social media, and those kinds of things. Uh-huh. So when we take that into account, yes, Hillary Clinton's scandals are actually seem like they're much more forefront than previous presidencies, and it's that media effect that I think is causing it. Because minor scandals probably would not have been picked up. I mean, I named off of 3 major scandals during the Ulysses S. Grant administration. How many more were so small in the media? Maybe 1 or 2 newspapers carried it. And this was also in the time when they had yellow journalism, so there were a lot of exaggerations. And scandals can be exaggerations. So we do see a media effect today that I think amplifies current candidates over previous candidates. So you're absolutely right in that regard.
So Dave, let's go ahead and start the cherry picking, so to speak. Pick the first 2 topics that you want to digest, and then we're going to start the conversation.
Okay, so the first one that I'm going to talk about is one of these scandals that I think is a pure media construction because that effect that we were talking about. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to start off with that. And that's going to be the Watergate scandal. And I know a lot of people are like, well, Hillary Clinton was a Democrat by that time. What did she have to do with Watergate? Well, she was part of the investigation committee. And she didn't get along with the chief counsel, a gentleman named Jeffrey Ziffman. Mm-hmm. And he wrote in his diary that he was a little murky in his explanation, but it seemed to imply that 27-year-old staff attorney Hillary Rodham was fired by Jerry Ziffman for gross incompetency because she was a liar, she was unethical, and she was dishonest.
So, Dave, let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there because I want to kind of paint this chart. Okay, this is when she basically first started her career, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, and if she's basically first starting her career and somebody already labeled her out of the box as a liar or whatever the case may be, and those same attributes exist now, what does that say with regards to her? And I believe that's why we're trying to tie this in. So go ahead and finish what you were going to say.
That's where the media deception comes in. Because Ziffman did not say those things back in 1974 or 1975 when the alleged event occurred. And in fact, he did not have the authority to even fire her. What happened was she was let go when Nixon resigned and they disbanded the investigation committee. So she was not fired in any sense of the term, and people who worked with her in the office said that, that none of these things were true. This was said by Ziffman in 2008 on libertarian radio show Neil Bourne. He later recanted what he said on there, saying specifically, and I want to quote him, if I had the power to fire her, I would have fired her. So,
and that's a direct quote.
That's a direct quote from him. but that was much later on. And he was never known to like Hillary at all. So this is someone who had a bias towards her. But her other co-workers and other people on the committee didn't report any of the issues or any of the personality conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed to have been just this person. So we're left with a scandal that wasn't really a scandal because the events didn't happen, and the person making the allegations did not say anything until 2007 and 2008. And what happened in 2007 and 2008? Hillary Rodham Clinton was running for president. And that's going to play a key role in everything that I talk about later on.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any questions about this one, now's the time to bring it in.
Okay, Dave.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Disman, what did he do after the committee was disbanded? Was he in political life? Was he, where did he go when the committee was disbanded? I'm just trying to get from 2008. What was he doing?
He served as Democratic counsel for the House Judiciary Committee in the 70s, and he retired later on, I believe, in the mid-80s.
My question is why, okay, so that's what I was trying to get. So obviously he served as an attorney. My question is, did the man lie or did he not? Okay,
well,
in 2008, did he lie or did he not? And if he didn't lie, if he did lie, why?
Well, as I said, other co-workers have made comments that he never got along with Clinton. But all of his negative accounts and firings were as late as the earliest one was 1995 when he wrote a book, and then in 2007 when he was on Neil Bortz's show. So those are the only two big time periods.
I'd just like to make the point, Dave, if someone's going to dislike someone and doesn't get along with someone, that's one thing, but to call someone a liar and dishonest, unless you're a psychopath yourself, I mean, there must be cause. Otherwise, it's just a case I didn't like the woman, I didn't, but I mean, he got pretty specific. This is the only point I'm making.
Yeah, Nikki. Dave. Yeah, let me bring a Hillary supporter in. Dr. Pastor A.F. Riggins is out there. He had a comment that he want to make. So what I'm going to try to do, Dave, is since it's your show, your topic, I'm going to let you bring each individual point up and spend a little time. Either we're going to rebut it, or either we're going to go with it, or you just conversate on it. Because, like I said, I know you've done your research, and I want your research to pay off. A.F. Riggins, come on in.
Yes, thank you for being on tonight. I'm really enjoying the topic. Dave, thank you for your thorough research and the way that you present in an objective manner. I believe that, and this is going to be my one thing I say up front, and we can talk about it later as Dave. I believe that if you look at the timeline, like you said, wait till 1995, then 2007. Baron, in our community, what did we used to call Bill Clinton as a nickname? The first what?
First black president.
Yes, sir. What happened with Hillary and Bill Clinton was they was known as end lovers.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna tell you like it is. Right. And when that came in, they said, they like African Americans. They're trying to help poor people. They're trying. They're on this big quest to try to bring progressive ideals to the United States. Bill Clinton had one problem: chasing women. They tied that to the fact that they didn't like what they were doing, and that's how they started all the deal with Ken Starr and I know Dave's going to talk about the land deal and all that kind of stuff, and so they created a narrative because Ronald Reagan, like you said, Ronald Reagan, the most scandalous president, it was only right before George Bush, the most scandalous president. We talk about Iran-Contra scandal, all this stuff, but they create this image of Bill Clinton and them because now they were trying to push the progressive platform. Let Bernie Sanders have one thing that anybody can say negative they can pull out on him. They're gonna create it to be 10 times worse. Is what I'm saying. And so as he talks tonight, just pay attention that the motive behind all this perception of scandal could be that it could be more so as it's painted on her more than things that she's actually done. And I'll continue to listen.
Yeah, Pastor. Well, we're gonna bring everybody in. Like I said, Dave has done some research on this, and I really don't want him to waste the time that he's done it. So we're gonna go through each and I tell you what, if those who are out there listening who want to join, go ahead on and take some notes off of what Dave said. I'm gonna let him go through whatever it is, then we're gonna come back to it. So Dave Lamont.
All right, so let's bring up what Pastor Riggins brought up, the Whitewater controversy. This was one of the topics that was investigated by independent counsel Ken
Starr. Mm-hmm.
Ken Starr. This was the Republican hitman to finally deal with Bill Clinton. This was, Travelgate, Filegate, Vince Foster's death, and Whitewater. So Whitewater was basically a land deal that went bad, and there were many people who were tried and convicted in this case. 15 people were convicted of more than 40 crimes. Bill Clinton, however, and Hillary Clinton were not implicated nor indicted in any of the charges on this. And the only thing that came about out of this, and you're going to hear a lot about Whitewater in the next few months, but the only thing the Clintons had to do was make a reimbursement payment to the IRS of $4,900 based on a mistake in the taxes. Now, of course, you could say that maybe they did that on purpose and maybe they got away with something. Okay, let's go with that kind of assumption. Maybe he did get away with something. Maybe Clinton, either Bill or Hillary or both, did something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem that exists when you say that a scandal that did not result in any conviction is still true is that you have to have some sort of evidence that says that they committed a crime. And even Ken Starr, who was diligently looking for a method to get Bill Clinton removed from office, had to, in 1998, admit that there was nothing to this investigation, and the Clintons were not a part of it. So,
look like Dave. We got some feedback out there. Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Ooh.
Yeah,
in our legal system, if you are not tried and convicted of a crime, you are technically innocent of that crime, because we do have a system where it's called innocent until proven guilty. And when the prosecutor says that he does not have a case, we have to sit there and accept something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So Whitewater turns out to be more media hype.
Mm-hmm.
So,
go ahead, Dave. I'm gonna let you bring. Yeah, I'm gonna let you bring each individual one up, and then once you bring them up, we're gonna let the conversation start, because again, regardless as to whether it's true or not, and it's unfair if it's not, but sometimes those perceptions can end up being other people's reality, which can cause, because here's the deal: where there's smoke, there's fire. Some people are just savvy enough to get beyond, what the actual issues are. I'm not saying that she is, but I'm just speaking in general. So go ahead, Dave.
All right. Well, yes, generally speaking, where there's smoke, there's fire. However, if you're using a smoke machine, is there a fire? So if you're exaggerating a story or making up something, sure, you're creating smoke, but you're not actually leading it to a fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm saying here. And, when it comes to, like I said, Whitewater was totally dismissed in 1998 by Ken Starr. And I don't think Ken Starr was a friend of the Clintons. In fact, the Republicans themselves were frustrated that the Clintons didn't get any formal charges, and the Democrats thought it was a political witch hunt. So which is it that happened? Was nothing there, or was there something there, and somehow the Clintons, yet again, figured out a way to get out of something? And that's going to be another theme that we're going to discuss. The first theme that we were, point we were looking at was that these charges are things that are levied against them decades after it happened, and we saw that with the Watergate question. And in this one, we see the next point. The next point is the Clintons are both the slick Clintons, and at the same time, it's a political witch hunt. These are two conflicting statements, so we have to take that into consideration as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go around. If anybody has any questions, I will start off with Nikki.
Okay.
Dave, I'm just struck by I'm listening. I'm really listening, and I recognize that I carry quite a bias towards Secretary Clinton. You know, so I'm trying to be open-minded here and really hear what you are saying. You know, you made the note with Whitewater, so they had some taxes. I see again, I mean, they misfiled on the foundation. There just always seems to me that whatever the email servers, you know, what Secretary of State has an email in a house in New York? You know, in a house in New York. You know, some of Mrs. Clinton's decisions or processes defy a kind of logic as to why. Why would a Secretary of State that has access to absolute the full security and of the United States government have an email server in a house in New York? You know, and why would then Mrs. Clinton decide which ones go to the State Department and then designate which ones are personal and then destroy them? If there was an error, you had the email server in the house of New York, why not turn everything over to the State Department? I mean,
well,
it's this kind of thing. It's just this kind of thing with Mrs. Clinton that this to happen. Authority questionable, nothing that seems too stick, you know, point or worthy of a charge. But there's always this kind of devious murkiness and not quite straight around what she does.
Well, okay.
Can I jump in? This is Paula.
Give me just a... Yes, go ahead, Paula.
You were talking about Whitewater at first, and that went way back when the Clintons were in Arkansas. And when that was all going on, wasn't there a woman, a good friend of theirs, that went to jail because she refused to testify against the Clintons? And I'm not sure if it was if it was about the Whitewater investigation or if it was something else. And since you are the historian on this, can you tell me anything about that?
I believe you might be talking about Susan McDougal, who was a Clinton supporter and fundraiser. Yeah. She received an 18-month sentence for contempt of court because she refused to answer 3 questions regarding whether Bill Clinton lied in testimony. Now, we don't know what the contents of those questions were, or the answer to those questions were. Maybe she was covering up for Bill Clinton. That could very well be. It could also be that she was a friend of the Clintons, and she didn't want things that she knew that could be perceived as being criminal, whether or not they were, to come out. Because remember, at the time, this was considered to be, by the Democrats at least, a political witch hunt, and actually by the public at large, it was considered part of a witch hunt. And I don't know, you know, I wouldn't want to testify against a good friend of mine if I thought that anything I said could contribute to their downfall, even if I thought they were innocent of something. I can give you an example of this. There was, if we switched over to, say, climate change, there was an email scandal that was going on with that. And in that, scientists were talking to each other about how they needed to make adjustments to data. And that was taken out of context as being, we need to cook the book in order to make things look like this is happening.
Hey,
So
Dave.
it's easy for your own testimony to be used against you.
Hey, Dave. Belinda says, didn't her husband die in jail, Susan McDougal?
Let me see. That I am not sure.
Yeah, I think she put out on the live link that it's not relevant. It's just a part of the context of what we're talking about. But go ahead on, Dave, and like I said, you have control of your time, so go ahead.
So I want to go back to one of the things that Nikki was saying. Basically, there's a lot of perception that goes on, and it's that media perception I was talking about, that the Clintons are somehow getting away from something, they're somehow involved in something. When you have power, when you have influence or money, these kinds of things go hand in hand. And she mentioned specifically the emails, and we're going to be getting to that a little bit later, but I'm just going to touch on the fact that she said how unusual it was to have a email server in a house in New York City, is I believe what she said exactly. Well, we don't have that exactly, but both Secretary Colin Powell and Secretary Condoleezza Rice and President Bush had personal email servers which contained emails relevant to an investigation that each of them were involved with, and they also had deleted emails. Now, the whole thing about deleted emails, I will go into later on when we get to that particular scandal as well. So, just briefly, this is not unusual, that the email server situation.
Dave, we got Aaron Hopkins out there. Let me bring Aaron. Aaron, do you have anything thus far?
No, I don't have anything, Baron. I'm kind of like everybody else. I'm actually wanting Dave to get his to present his facts, and then I will start.
Okay, was that Pastor Riggins trying to come in? Okay, go ahead on, Dave.
All right, so we get to Travelgate, and Travelgate's a little, it's kind of a minor scandal compared to these other ones. You're going to hear a lot of talk about it, but again, the only thing that really happened was the travel office director was charged with embezzlement, and in 1998, again, Ken Starr exonerated Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton of any kind of role in it. And this appears to have been a case where the particular chief of staff was embezzling money for his own purposes, so the books were looking crooked, and they wanted to point the finger to the Clintons, saying that somehow, as President of the United States, they were trying to skim money off of the Office of Travel. And the reason why I call this a minor scandal is because it's a bit ridiculous thinking that a sitting president is going to have a very secure future, is going to resort to doing something as stupid as trying to embezzle money from a government facility in the White House. So naturally that resulted in nothing happening. They found out who was actually doing it and why, because this guy, he wasn't going to be going anywhere. It's not like he was a political figure. He was just a staff person who was in charge of money. Mm-hmm. He decided to try and take from the till. But someone who, and at this point, Bill Clinton earned the name Quick Willie. Now, that's reminiscent of another name that was given to a mobster, someone named Gotti. He was known as the Teflon Don. Well, what is one thing that we do know about the Teflon Don? He was caught and put into jail. He died in prison. So either the Clintons are the most bumbling criminals in U.S. history, and everybody around them is even worse at catching them, or they are the most brilliant criminals in history and the only one never caught for these kinds of things.
Hey, Dave.
So
Dave.
both these sound absurd to me.
Hey, Dave. Since you brought that point up, and you and Pastor Riggins, because he's a history teacher by trade, Pastor Riggins, up until this point, what Dave is saying, and we know, and like I said, we give respect, diligent respect. We know that you're a Hillary supporter. Any recanting you want to do on that thus far, Pastor?
That's right. He's laying out the case, and even I want to even say that I believe when he gets to the email, what happened with Hillary is that only thing that I believe that her weakness is, she tries to outcalculate those who are trying to bring her down, and so forth. So when she put the server in the house, she's trying to protect her own interests and outthink the people who's trying to bring her down all the time. Then the perception plays into itself. Mm-hmm. But other people already know. Colin Powell had his own server, so did Condoleezza Rice, and so did Bush. But see, what happens is, every time the bar is always raised higher for the Democrats. That's what David's trying to show us in the way. They always raise the bar higher, and that's what she has to make sure that they raise the bar high. Yes, sir.
One question, though. Neither one of those individuals that you mentioned ran for president.
No, they weren't. No, what you call was president? George W. Bush with his own email search.
Right.
He told you. Mm-hmm. Right. See, so you got. See, that's what the deal. See, every time. This is what the media wants us to say. This is what you just said. Not that I'm blaming it on you. That's what the media wants us to say without even looking at the whole picture.
Exactly.
Out. Right. This is what David's showing us tonight. They're painting a picture, and meanwhile, Donald Trump has scandals out the kazoo that we're going to find out about.
Come on, Pastor.
Trying to protect him because
Come on.
Celebrity.
Come on, Riggin.
But that's what I'm trying to show us.
Hey, Pastor, and I'm going to tell you now, I intentionally asked that question because I know that Bush was a president. But see, you and I know each other so well, so here we are. See,
Sure.
when you're around each other long enough, you know what's going to go on, Dave Lamont.
Yes, well, I was just responding to the chat. Bush's server, because someone mentioned that the server was in her house. Well, the Bush server was in Crawford, Texas. And here's another interesting thing about that server. That actual machine was later used in 2004 as a server for the vote count in Ohio. Now, if anybody is astute and remembers the whole thing about Ohio, there was allegations that there was vote tampering in Ohio where votes were being flipped from Kerry to Bush and led to Bush's re-election.
Stole the election twice.
I wanted to throw that out there.
Stole the election twice.
So Dave, I know you well enough, and I'm not saying that you're trying to insinuate, but are you putting that information out there to provoke the minds of those who are listening, to give them an honest assessment of what could be or what couldn't be? I'll let you speak for yourself.
Yeah, I'm not trying to imply that, we don't know what happened in Ohio, but I just wanted to show you that, there is a record of this happening. What happens with the Clinton email scandal, and let's go ahead and go into the Clinton email scandal, because I think a lot of people don't understand what's actually happening with this scandal. Mm-hmm. And this is the one that I want to spend kind of the most effort on, because I think it's probably the one that's most confusing to everybody. So let's start out with the idea. Basically, she had used a private email server that she had in her house to serve as both a private and a official communication server. And there's a lot of allegations about her passing classified materials. Now, I want to clarify what actually is happening with that. The reason why these are being called classified materials is that when the server was recovered and we're getting these emails back, the FBI is going through and saying, okay, we can't discuss these things, and they redact portions or entire email lines. They redact it. They classify it. That doesn't mean that they were classified at the time they were written. They're classified now because the release to the public would be damaging to either the state or it would compromise any kind of investigative case. Because what the FBI is doing is they are releasing these emails at the same time as the investigation is going. So people are able to look at these emails and see these exchanges. So some of the things they have to redact. And that's where you're getting this categorization that Clinton was sending classified material on her private server. At the time, none of those documents that she was passing around, none of those emails or memos were actually classified. They're classified today in regard to the case. So that's the first clarification we have to make. The second clarification is that having the private email server was somehow against the law. And there's a bit of a dance going on with that too. It is not technically against the law for someone in state, in her position, head of state, for the State Department, to request to have a private server. This was granted by the administration and by the State Department to allow that, just like it was with Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice. So this is something that, at the worst, she broke a rule, but it wasn't a law that she broke. And that's where the twist came in, is people are trying to imply that she broke some sort of law. And she may not have done any of that on her own. This may have been what the investigation is sort of looking at is her IT department, the head of her IT department who set up these servers. And it may be that he, when he was setting up this server, circumvented some rule in the setup of it. But I don't blame Hillary Clinton for an IT problem. I mean, if she said, I'd like to have the server in my house, then it's the job of the people under her to either tell her that the rules say you can't do this or make it happen. And if it's make it happen that they're going to go with, people below her are going to circumvent rules to satisfy the demand of Hillary Clinton, who may not have been aware that there was any kind of rule infraction. But there certainly wasn't a law infraction that we're seeing. And you're not going to see an indictment of Hillary Clinton over this email thing.
Right. Dave, I have contended from day one, and I just wrote on the live chat, being a black man and Barack being a black man, Pastor Riggins, you can attest to this. If Hillary had done anything remotely wrong when it came to Benghazi or whatever the case may be, Obama would have gotten rid of her with the quickness. That's just our nature. So I just don't feel like, some things I disagree with her, but I can't put murderer on her hands when I know for a fact in my heart, and at least I believe, that this right here is a witch hunt to control other things, but I can't put that one on her, the Benghazi. Go ahead, Dave.
All right, so
Dave,
the other big
comment?
one. Yeah, I was going to go ahead and say that, we're going to go into the Benghazi thing next, but I wanted to get people to give me their questions. So go ahead, Nick.
There's just one thing in the three instances that you've mentioned: Whitewater, Travelgate, the server, and a possible IT tech making a mistake. People fall around this woman. People below her fall, go to jail. Whether it's someone in Travelgate this is what I'm seeing, and I'm going to admit my bias, but small people around her go to jail, have a problem, and she sits up there on top of that. And it's very, very hard for me to grasp that she cannot know what's going on. there's I understood the woman that went to jail for 18 months, and you made the comment that you wouldn't testify against a friend if it possibly hurt them. What's wrong with the truth to begin with? And secondly, why would someone elect to spend 18 months in jail rather than simply telling the truth if the truth was the truth? I mean, I find small problems like that along the way, Dave. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Let me get into that. So the first point that you were talking about is it seems like the Clintons have people who do dubious things around them, and I will agree with you on that. I believe that if we draw anything from this, it's the fact that the Clintons may have a judgment problem. And that's probably the thing that we should concern ourselves with the most. Not whether or not the Clintons themselves did a crime, but if they have poor judgment. Because a president, and I see in the comments people talking about president knows what's going on in his house, and you alluded to something like that as well. But I can tell you right now that I don't know what's going on in the room right next door to me in my own house, unless I actually go in or monitor it. The office of the presidency has several thousand employees. Around 1,000 of them are in the White House themselves. So I don't necessarily buy the idea that the buck stops at the president. He's the ultimate authority on everything. But I do think a lot of people will act in accordance to what they think the wishes of their bosses are to try and win favor. Because we're talking about Washington, D.C., where political power is money there. And if you're an intern or a staffer or even chief of staff, the idea is to get the result that will get you noticed and will get you ahead in the game.
Hey,
so
Dave.
That's what we need to think about.
Hey, Dave, I just thought of this, and sorry for interrupting you. I'm going to be quiet. You're saying that maybe the Clintons have a judgment issue. Isn't that the same thing that Bernie Sanders said back during one of the debates? It's her judgment that he basically questioned. Sure, she's qualified, but it's her judgment that people should have a problem with. So could that kind of validate what may be some of the concerns of the American people?
Well, again, I want to reiterate. I want to present again that I am a Bernie Sanders supporter.
Right.
I do believe Senator Sanders was correct, and I think that the biggest thing that we can draw from any presidential candidate is judgment. Because here's what happens. When you're president, you sign off on something. And let me take that back a little bit more. I was in the United States Navy. I served on board a ship called the USS Acadia. It was a repair ship. Our ship had a captain. He was the ultimate authority on our ship. But like I said, he didn't know what was going on in the next room. But if something bad happened in that room and someone got hurt, he would be someone who would be held accountable. And his judgment would be called into question. Mm-hmm. Same thing happens as you go up the scale. The people you pick for these positions of power, your cabinet members, your chief of staff, your all the way down to the interns that you have around you, those are all reflections of your ability to enact judgment. And if there's one crime that I feel we can levy against the Clintons, is I don't think they have good judgment. And as much as I'm sounding like I'm defending Hillary Clinton, you know me, I'm defending the truth.
Right.
I don't think the scandals are the problem. I think the judgment of the Clintons is the problem. And that's the sad part in the title of the topic. Because she's the front runner. She very well may win the nomination. And we have to go into this election with someone who I personally feel has flawed judgment based on all of these little things that are happening around her.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
Okay.
does that answer your question?
Yeah. I'm fine. Yeah.
All right.
Doing a good job.
Let's see. Where were we here? So we covered the email scandal. So how about Benghazi? Now, 4 Americans were killed in September of 2012. The administration came out initially, and they tried to pawn off the idea that it wasn't a direct terrorist attack, that it was more of a response to a video.
Hey, Dave.
Although there's some conflicting statements about that too. Yes, sir.
Sorry about that. Pastor Riggins just messaged me and said that he's got a point, and I think it's probably on your last comment. So hold where you at right there. Pastor Riggins, I'm going to let you come in and give your point.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Dave, I want to agree with you that that's what concerns me with Hillary Clinton is her judgment, which I believe a lot of times Bill Clinton made some better judgments than she did. Of course, not with his personal life, but I mean politically speaking. And what I'm concerned about is that right now she does not see that she can make a good judgment that if she wins the nomination to ask Bernie to be her running mate. That's what I'm concerned about. That she is thinking that the move against Donald Trump is enough for her to pick whoever she wants to pick. And she's going to miss that judgment call to ask him to be the running mate. And that's what I'm worried about, because when she didn't win against Barack Obama made a good judgment to make her be Secretary of State. In this case, she needs to make a good judgment to bring those voters on to ask Bernie Sanders to be her running mate. Because if she was to die, or God forbid, or be killed or something, then would not Bernie Sanders be good enough to be president of the United States? Is how she had to look at it. Not that I beat him. No, not that I beat him, see, but I need him. That's the judgment call that I'm worried about.
Okay, excellent point.
So yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I would make one minor change to that. I'm a big proponent of the uselessness of advocating the uselessness of the vice president's office, and I wouldn't want someone like Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, and even to a degree Sherrod Brown. Those are all good, strong conservatives we need in the Senate fighting for our position. What I would like to see is someone like Bernie Sanders, maybe even Bernie Sanders himself, put on the committee, or maybe even heading the committee, who does pick her vice president. Because I think his age will come into question if we were to pick him. But if he were to have a big say in who that pick was, I think that would go a long way towards reconciliation within the party, getting a good, strong progressive into the vice presidential slot should the unthinkable happen. And Bernie Sanders can go back to being one of the most powerful senators in the U.S. Senate.
Pastor Reagan?
How I would respond to that. I would just think that a little bit.
I have no problem with that. All I wanted to do is to include Bernie Sanders and let him know that we need him, and to bring his voters along. Don't try to do it in spite of him. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about her. That's the only thing sometimes. A woman's scorn. I don't want to get into a womanhood. A woman's scorn. I'm not chauvinist, but I don't want him to get a woman's scorn against him and then put her nose up in the air, and that's when she's going to lose.
It looked like she's putting her nose up in the air already, huh, Pastor?
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think she's playing a coy game right now. I think she's trying to. She's got a lot of pride. She's playing a coy game, and COY, trying to be coy about it. But when it's all said and done, she's going to come. She's going to need Bernie Sanders. She knows it.
Yeah, but Pastor, you know, pride is at the top of the list.
But you know who's going to help her? Two people going to help her come to her senses.
Who?
If they really want to win. That's President Barack Obama and Joe Biden. They're going to sit her down and say, listen here, enough is enough. We cannot afford to let the country go to Donald Trump. they're gonna have to come to Jesus meeting with her, and that's gonna be her cover, her safe face cover. Well, I step with the president with nobody, and everybody.
But here's the other side of that, Pastor. Had nobody been able to tame this lady in 30 years, nobody's gonna be able to do it in 4 or 5 months.
Well, one person tamed her though. No, one person tamed her. Like you said, one person tamed her.
Who?
Barack Obama. Like you said, Barack when she was Secretary of State. Remember you said if she'd have done something wrong, he'd have got rid of her.
Oh yeah.
One person has been able to tame her. Is Barack.
But you know, if we get on the commentary of the comedian stuff, I mean, you know why he was able to tame her. But I mean, absent of that, I mean, all jokes aside, I just think I had a woman that was a wife of a minister, and herself included. She says, Baron, I don't care what it is. She says, I am a woman. She said, every time you see Hillary Clinton on television, you can see that in her, and this lady is destined to do whatever it is that she want to do, and I don't think nobody's going to be able to just like Trump. If he gets in, he's going to do whatever it is he want to do, and I'll take it back to Dave, and I'll let you come back in, Pastor. Go ahead, Dave.
Certainly. And thank you very much. That's good points. I can't disagree with any of it. And like I said, other than that, all clarification on my end, because I'm a firm believer that the vice president is halfway useless. So I don't want someone as good as Bernie Sanders in a job like that.
And that makes sense. That makes sense, Dave. Yeah, it really does. Why would you waste somebody in a position that has no really credibility?
That's why Elizabeth Warren is not interested in becoming vice president.
Exactly.
Exactly. She feels that she can be more effective in the Senate than she would ever be as vice president.
Excellent comment.
And everybody wants her to be vice president because it would strengthen their ticket.
Yeah, it's a superficial job.
That time and time again that she would be less effective as vice president than she is currently in the Senate.
Go ahead, Dave. That's an excellent point.
Right? That was Paula, right?
Paula.
Yeah.
Yes. Pat yourself on the back. You figured out something that most of the news people and most politicians have not done.
Correct.
They put a crazy expectation and a crazy authority to the office of vice president. And if you ever want to know how useless the vice president's office is, read the book on John Adams. It's a biography on John Adams. It's a little pro-Adams for my taste, but it was a very good book nonetheless. And he goes into quite a bit of detail about how utterly useless he felt doing that job. So, pat yourself on the back. You've accomplished something that politicians in the last 200 years still seem to fumble on.
Hey, Dave, we got about 28 minutes.
One exception to that, and I think that when George W. was president, he had Dick Cheney as his vice president.
He actually didn't. Let me clarify. He didn't actually pick Dick Cheney. But when George Bush received the nomination, he put Dick Cheney on as the head of his selection committee for vice president, and Dick Cheney picked himself.
Hey, Dave, we got about 27 minutes. I want to make sure you get all your information out.
I've only got one more left.
Okay.
That's the one that was in the news actually recently, Benghazi. Recently we had the chairman of the Benghazi Political Action Committee, as I call it, Trey Gowdy, talking on Fox News, and he admitted while he was on Fox News that they actually had no evidence against Clinton. There was kind of a slip of the tongue. But this is a committee that's been going on, or the Benghazi scandal, as I was starting to say, happened in 2012 when a consulate in Libya was attacked and 4 people were killed, including the ambassador who was stationed there. Now, a lot of originally the administration did not know exactly what was going on when they went to the press, But as you know, in our media-driven society, we have to report things immediately. So the initial thought in the State Department was that it was over a video that was released on YouTube that was mocking the Islamic faith. It was a horribly done video. I've seen the video myself, and it offended me. And I'm not even religious.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the initial thought. But within days, we found out it was something else that was going on. And the president was quick to actually come out and say it was terrorism, unlike what Mitt Romney said in one of the presidential debates, where President Obama famously said, "Please continue, Governor." He, and the CNN moderator had to correct Governor Romney on this. So we move forward, and the investigation starts. The Republicans take the House, and they start doing an investigation. And before the Trey Gowdy Committee, there were 7 other investigations, and none of them uncovered anything. And in fact, with the Trey Gowdy Committee, which I call Political Action Committee because it is the first U.S. taxpayer-funded political action committee in U.S. history, they have been pressuring the military with wild goose chases so often that the Secretary of Defense, the Undersecretary of Defense, and the Office of Public Relations within the military has started to refuse any request from the Benghazi Committee, saying that they have covered all the options and there was no military means of saving those people. And that's the thing that Trey Gowdy admitted to, that even if the military were somehow ordered to attack or try to rescue these people, the Republicans, the Department of Defense, and the military within the Department of Defense all agree that nothing could have been done. So that's the end of the committee. Well, no, not really, because this is, again, a political action committee. So this is a tragic event that has been usurped by the Republicans, turned into a congressional political action committee for the sole purpose of attacking Hillary Clinton. And she has no culpability at all in this. She did nothing that could indicate or point out that she committed any kind of crime or let these people die. So if anybody's got anything on this, we can start going around.
I do. It's Pastor Rick.
Right.
Yes. Thanks for the information given us. 2 things. Number one, go back to what we were talking about, Vice President. Since we know that it's not such a high position, that's why President Barack Obama did not pick Hillary Clinton. He picked Joe Biden, and he gave Hillary Clinton a more prominent and more important job, Secretary of State. Second thing that happened, that guy that was working for Hillary Clinton, that was the ambassador there, refused all type of security measures because he wanted to be where he could be, touch the people, be involved with the people. I saw myself in him because when I go out to pastor and I work in the prison ministry and do all kind of stuff like this, I want to be close to the people in school. I want to be close to the, and I would see myself trying to do that same thing, thinking I can touch the people and leave myself open to this attack. And that's what happened. They left themselves open to the attack because he didn't have the right security measure on himself. Even though he had been given all the protocols by the State Department, give everything by the Defense Department, military, everything, that he refused everything. And then when it happened, then the Republican Congress turned around and said, Hillary Clinton, you're at fault. And so I'm adding that to what you were saying.
Exactly. And I did forget to bring that point up, so I appreciate you coming up with that. Nikki, you usually have something, so let's go ahead.
No, I'm being informed, Dave.
All right.
By you. I'm really listening. I'm listening.
Hey, Dave. Belinda says out there, Nikki, not meaning to cut you off, I'll let you come back in. She says the Clinton Foundation is going to be a big problem. A lot going on there. You got any feedback on that, Pastor Riggins? Anybody out there?
I was looking at that today.
Yeah, here's the thing. If you go, and Dave can speak to this, the World Initiative he has, every year they come out to the UN and they bring all these people he's trying to save people in Africa from hunger, AIDS, all this kind of stuff. The reason why Clinton started this was because he fought the war in Kosovo, but he left Somalia open. Remember when that happened about Somalia? Mm-hmm. He never got over that. He never got over that. So as ex-past president, being president, he made a world mission to try to save all these countries and stuff in Africa. And so they raised all this money. Of course, now they're trying to say some of their friends getting some of this money. Once again, it's something similar to like the bill they did the land, Whitewater. It's always to try to find some kind of stream somewhere where the Clintons cannot be doing so right. They can't be helping so many people. They can't be doing all this. He can't be raising all these billions of dollars. Somebody getting some of this money. And that's what they're going after. They're chasing. They're going to chase it because, number one, the Congress, they understand that with all these committees in Congress, we got to vote in 2010. We have to vote 2014. We have to vote in 2018. We have to vote so that we don't have people in place to gin up all this kind of stuff. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Something may come out that may be minor, may not come at all. But I don't think there's anything. Why all of a sudden now, when she's running for president of the United States, after since 1999, since 2000, all these years has never had a problem. Now all of a sudden they got a problem. Even in 2008, Clinton Foundation have a problem. No. But now that she might be the presumptive nominee, all of a sudden they have a problem with the Clinton Foundation. And that's my point on that.
Right. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to jump in on that because he hit one of the main points of the entire conversation of the night is all of these scandals only seem to come about when Hillary or Bill Clinton are running for some sort of office. And sometimes during their time in office. But there was a brief period when Hillary Clinton was not running for president, and after she left state, and before she announced that she was running for president this cycle. And during that time, other than the Benghazi Committee, pretty much all of these other scandals were not really mentioned. So the takeaway we have from all of this is if she's guilty, then she should be prosecuted, and for some reason she's either the smartest person or the people who go after her are the worst people, or she's just not guilty, and they're just throwing everything that they can at her to try and besmirch her reputation and make her come off as more of a slimy politician than she may really be. And it only happens when she's moving in or out of a position of power. And that's the only time we see these sort of things.
I'll add one more thing, and I'll be quiet the rest of the night. President Barack Obama, this is how they did it to him. Jeremiah Wright and Burton. They couldn't find anything on his family. He wasn't running around on no women. He wasn't doing it. So two things about him: Jeremiah Wright and then Burton. That's what that's equal to me. Is that this is how they do this? Clinton. That's how Jeremiah Wright and Burton is all these types of scandals that they come up with.
Well, I'll tell you.
So
go ahead, Dave.
The Clinton Foundation.
Getting deep.
We want to talk about the Clinton Foundation now?
Go ahead.
I would like to talk about the Clinton Foundation.
Okay, so go ahead.
Whether the things about the Clinton Foundation are true or not, I follow the internet quite closely, and it seems that the Clinton Foundation has taken money, a lot of money, from foreign dignitaries in exchange for weapons and favors, and I mean, they have spent millions on the Clinton Foundation, and people just don't do that without expecting something in return. And it seems to me that the Clinton Foundation, I myself was a Bill and Hillary fan for years. I mean, I just loved them. But as more things come to light, it seems to me that the Clinton Foundation was more of a money laundering scheme than it was actually a foundation to help people around the world.
Okay. You know,
is there any truth to that, or am I just getting misinformation?
Well, let's go ahead and look at that. Okay, so on the surface, and I'm going to say this about any kind of foundation, whether it's the foundation that Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook founded, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Clinton Foundation, all of these foundations are, to some degree, a slush fund. This will come to us as a shock to many people. Philanthropy is a great business because it's tax exempt, and there are ways of getting more money out of that. Mark Zuckerberg, for instance, taking $10 billion and putting it into his foundation, stands to save millions and millions of dollars in taxes. So these foundations, at the start, have a great tendency of being corrupt kind of slush funds. Do they do some good? Yes, I do contend that they do some good. So with that said, let's look at the Clinton Foundation. They accept money from various people, and I agree with Deb in the chat, local charities or charities that you've investigated, those are the best ones to contribute to rather than these large organizations. So getting back on to the subject here. So the Clinton Foundation basically takes in a lot of money from various donors. Now, I want to go to what Paula said. She said that she implied at least that there's a quid pro quo in that. That's what needs to be determined. That is also a very hard thing to prove. How do you prove the money that was given to a foundation that supposedly does charitable work? How do you prove that the intent was to bribe someone for some sort of influence? And the allegation specifically is that foreign dignitaries and foreign governments gave to the Clinton Foundation while Secretary Clinton was serving as Secretary of State in exchange for favors while she was Secretary of State.
Right, Dave.
Very tough thing to prove.
Right, Dave, which goes for me being an elected official. It goes to the integrity of who you are. Because it's not what you do when people are looking at you. It's what you do when nobody is around. So if it appears, based on what you're saying, and you're doing a very good job tonight, it appears to me that she may be making these judgment calls. And there's always a cause and effect. So as a result of her making these judgment calls, this is the effect of what she's dealing with. And you live by the sword. You die by the sword. Bernie don't have these points of views. Obama didn't have these points of views, attributes against their life. Bush didn't, so when you start looking at Clinton and you put her aside of some of these other ones, I think the problem that she's dealing with, she calls them on her own and she's got to deal with them. Go ahead, Dave.
Yes, and I agree that I think that above anything, do I think she committed any kinds of crime? I don't think that any of these scandals and any of these allegations will pan out, not because she's a squeaky clean person or that she's really slick at getting out of trouble. I just don't think that there's anything there. Mm-hmm. What I do think is the underlying problem is that it calls into question her judgment.
Correct.
And she's got to make a very careful move. If she's going to be the Democratic nominee, she has got to make certain judgment calls that are outside of the character that we associate with Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Like putting someone like Sanders on her vice presidential committee or adopting more of his policies. And we've seen a lot of pushback from her, particularly her surrogate, in this regard, trying to disregard Sanders supporters and Sanders voters,
right,
and downplay them. And if she goes in that direction, that is going to be a problem. That's going to reinforce the problem of judgment. And it looks like Deb has something that she wants to say. So I'd like to hear from her.
Hi, guys. Yeah, and I tell you what, you got me all excited over here. I'm like, but
Hey, Deb, before you go, I'll let you know, we got about 9 to 11 minutes left.
okay, I'm going to make this real quick. My thing is that I agree with Dave. Everybody's got scandals. Scandals, I don't pay a lot of attention to scandals. I mean, I listen and whatever, but they're scandals. They come and go. But before Bernie, my plan was actually to vote for her. But then Bernie showed me that I didn't have to. There's another way to do this. There's another way to go about it. And that being said, the scandals they really were never my concern. It's her failed policies, her legislative decisions, supporting trade agreements, DOMA issues, with lives taken unnecessarily in Iraq because of her poor decision there, and the regime change after that, the Clinton Foundation, all of that. And with the integrity issues that Barron had, just mentioned, I just don't think she has the judgment to run this country. But more importantly, I don't think she will be able to rally the country. I don't think she will be able to rally them and bring the people together like Bernie Sanders has done. And, I mean, he's brought in not only his followers and his part of the Democratic followers, but he's brought in a huge portion of the independents that the Democratic Party needs to win this nomination. And he's brought in Republicans that have been disenfranchised from their own parties. So that's my big concern. And I don't see this turning out good, and it scares me.
Yeah, hey, Dave, if you don't mind, Aaron wanted to jump in behind Deb. Go ahead on, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you, Baron. I just wanted to say, first of all, Dave, excellent presentation of information. I'm not going to say that it enlightened me to in terms of stuff I didn't know, but I will say this. Just in terms of scandal and on the issue of judgment, I'm a little more concerned with the judgment of the people who now have to cast a vote either way, because the judgment seems to be skewed by emotion. So the scandal has, to me, it has a purpose in terms of causing misdirection and making people not sure which way they should go. One of the things I remember in the beginning that Nikki said was when she was talking about the trust or the distrust of former Secretary of State Clinton. And the trust, I'm going to say, goes into what everybody has said in the last few minutes with judgment. So if you make if you continuously make bad judgments, then how do you expect to be trusted by the people who are supporting you? So I see that not as much in the scandals per se have caused the cloud. It's the handling or the mishandling of some of these scandals and the judgment that I think is going to probably be her undoing.
Dave Lamont?
There is still time for her. She can make some right decisions that turn these things around. I do think that, unlike if any of these scandals are true, I think that while the judgment call is the most important thing within the context of what we were talking about, I also think it's the easiest one to correct, because she could make a few changes to herself that would throw out that question of her judgment. If she puts in key people, adopts good policies, these are all things that she could do to become a candidate that gains trust and shows good judgment. She can come back from it. That is also something that I want to preface at the end of this conversation. It is not too late.
Dave, I'll tell you, if you want to preface it, go ahead on and do it because we're looking at about 6 minutes. I'm beginning to think I need to schedule these a little bit longer because it's always it always get to a point where you don't want to stop because I want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard and try to facilitate this thing as much as possible. Dave, I have to tell you that you do a wonderful job. And I welcome you, Pastor Riggins, and everybody else that's out here participating, because I need to let you guys know that we are making progress. We are making headway. I can give you a list of the areas where people are listening. I'm talking all over this country and abroad. So regardless of whether people are jumping in and engaging, it's a good thing to me because people are actually listening and they want to hear what it is that you got to say. So at the end of the day, when the smoke clear, the dust settle, I appreciate all of you guys from the left to the right, from the north, south, east, and the west. Go ahead on, Dave, and give your final closing.
All right, so, the whole preface of this conversation was to point out the media exaggeration, the manipulation of the facts, the judgment calls of Secretary Clinton in these, and what can be done to correct that. And I think we covered all of those points very well. We established that every president and every presidential candidate has had many scandals. We've determined that, a lot of times that our current state of media is probably exaggerating scandals more in the modern era than has been done in the past. We've acknowledged Hillary Clinton's judgment issues surrounding the circumstances of these, and we put forth solutions that could put her on the path towards the light, so to speak.
Well,
so I think we've covered everything that I wanted to get to in this conversation.
Dave, again, I think Nikki will tell you. I think Pastor Riggins. I thank Aaron. I thank Deb, Belinda. I can't get the name right. Our other guest, Paula. Dave, you have done a wonderful job, an excellent delivery. And if there's anybody that's out there on the fence or still wondering about, Secretary of State, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, you have given them something that they can think about. You have painted an excellent picture to allow them to see what they need to see. So it's these types of conversations that allow us to have a conscious conversation that allows people to become involved. Okay, and the number one goal from day one has always and will continue to be, our number one goal is to simply make a difference. And we're making a difference. Dave Lamont thanks, Aaron Hopkins thanks, Paula thanks, Nikki thanks, Deb thanks, Belinda thanks, and anybody else that's out there on the line. I'm not real sure. I know that there are because I got the information earlier that the individual out there. Let me do this right quick. Is anybody out there on the line that would like to make any point? We got about 3 minutes left.
I would like to make one point. It's Paula.
Go ahead.
I think that with the amount of information that we have now than we have had ever before, public perception of the Clintons has come to light more than it ever has before. But she's still getting the majority of the vote. And I think that many women would like to see a woman president, and I think that has something to do with it. And there are also many women and men that would like to see a woman president, but not necessarily this woman.
Very valid. I feel the same way, Paula. I would like to see a woman president. It's kind of like, okay, black people don't want to just see any black in office. We want to see those who are qualified. I want to see a woman in office that has less of an issue going in rather than have to deal with all of these things because she's so polarizing, regardless of whether it's the Senate or the Congress. If we think Barack has had problems, let's wait until Madam Secretary get in office. Thanks for listening to tonight's subject by Dave Lamont, with Clinton sadly being the front runner. We have addressed her many scandals and how valid and real they are to this upcoming election. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Nikki. Thanks, Paula. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Pastor Riggins. And thanks, Deb. Good night, everybody.
Good night.